Skyworld Apocrypha. You did not ink it.
No, I did not. Uh, yeah, there's so many things happen. So when I drew the first 15 pages digitally, okay, for the skeptics out there, just hear me out. So
Welcome back, everyone, to the Comics Cube. Today, I am with Ian Santa Maria.
hi everyone.
Hey, Ian. So
I
you
do.
are currently in Denmark,
Yes, I
right?
am.
But like me, you are a Filipino.
Yes, I am.
What are you doing in Denmark, man?
I live here. Now I'm. Uh, I work for a toy company called Lego. I'm a senior concept artist, and I'm also, you know, my other job is a comic book creator and illustrator for stuff that is happening in Manila.
And your latest comic is out in Singapore right now, called Tino.
Mr. Tino,
Mr.
yes, that's
Tino.
right.
Like,
Yeah, I don't know how the pronunciation would work. Would it be Mr. Tino or Mr. Tino? But I guess it depends.
well,
Doesn't matter.
it's just I keep on thinking Tino because of the word Tino.
Oh, the word Matino.
The word
Which
Matino.
could be what the writer Russell could have been aiming for.
Yeah. So for our readers, for our viewers, I keep saying readers, but I know it's not. For our viewers, what is Mr. Tino about?
Well, it's a story about a 66-year-old man. Um, who finally gets not finally, but who suddenly gets superpowers on his 66th birthday.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you do? Um, well, do you take care of your wife who has Alzheimer's, or do you go out and try to save the world one little crime at a time? And those little comedy bits that happen and drama, and it's like a super senior superhero
There's not a lot of those. Most superheroes are much
in a
younger.
third world country.
In a third world country.
Yes,
So that did you have? So you had a lot of fun doing it. You did it in.
I did. I
Yeah.
did. It was so much fun working with Russell Molina, the writer
Mm-hmm.
of Mr. Pino, and otherwise known as 66 in Manila.
What was it like drawing a series? With a senior citizen as the protagonist, compared to other things you've done before with superheroes, like younger
Yeah,
superheroes.
yeah, and,
Yeah, built,
muscular ones.
muscular.
It was fun because we we consciously had to take care of how I draw him standing or how he opens the door, and the few times that you'd see him standing heroically is like immediately followed by an image of him going back to those old man postures, and for those comedic bits to end
Yeah.
the bit, you know. So it was really fun for me. Kasi nga, it was, I've been drawing Skyworld, which was highly fantasy. And like Louis said, a lot of superheroes, muscular superheroes. Drawing Mr. Tino was such a nice departure from that. It was a nice vacation and a lot of self-discovery in how to execute like faces, especially facial expressions,
Is
stuff
there
like that.
is there a difference in the way you draw? Like, what is the difference between the way you draw facial expressions for, an older character with more lines, or what?
Um, and I wouldn't say specific to older.
Mhm.
The difference between drawing old people and superheroes, is that your question?
Younger people,
Okay. I
old
wouldn't
people.
say
Yeah.
the, it won't. Well, of course, the difference would be how you execute. And you add more lines to a face of an old man. But I think what I took away from working with Russell is I learned to draw more, uh, and learn more how to draw. I meant facial expressions,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is helping me out with my art now. So I think I think I got a little bit better at it after that project with Russell. It
Helps
used to
you
be everyone's just angry and shouting.
helps you grow as an
Every stoic,
artist.
right? Stoic or not. Like 90% stoic lahat ng posts and brooding.
Helps you grow as an artist, no?
I would like to think so. But it never stops naman eh.
Yeah.
Diba?
So let's go back to the beginning.
Mm.
What got you into drawing, and what got you into comics?
Um, Norm Brayfogle Batman.
Nice. Yeah, I see it. Mm.
That was that comic book run by Norman Brayfogle got me drawing a lot. I remember as far as I can remember. And then Spider-Man Ditko. Those two
Who?
Spider-Man by Ditko.
Really? You don't
Yes.
hear that a lot from people our age. Like that's what got you into drawing? Silver Age.
I remember the first time I looked in front of the comic book and looked for the name of the artist.
Steve Ditko. Wow.
Steve Ditko and Norman Brayfogle. And then later on John Byrne. Is it Byrne or Byrne? How do you
Burn.
pronounce that? Byrne. There you go. Thank you.
Burn like the fire.
Oh, there you go. John Byrne because of Man of Steel.
Why? So I'm curious, why Steve Ditko? I love Steve Ditko, but I didn't really understand him until later,
Maybe
right?
because it was one of my first few like real comic books.
Mm-hmm. Do you
Na
remember the
bumili ako.
issue?
No, I don't. I don't. I just remember seeing the name Steve Ditko, and I started drawing like he does. So I started copying that, and then I remember my dad got me the Norman Brayfogle Batman, and then I remember stepping inside a comic book store for the first time, and then it smelled so good. The smell of paper.
Yeah.
It was comic. It was Comic Quest.
Comic Quest in
Mm,
Greenbelt
Sukat.
Quad
No, Sukat.
and Sukat. Oh wow. Yeah.
I was it yeah, I think it was Comic Quest somewhere in Sukat. And then I saw the very first Batman comic book that I bought with my own lunch money was Batman Holy Terror. It's an Elseworld story,
Oh yeah.
where Batman is a priest.
Okay.
So
Very.
I said purely Norm Brayfogle that blew my mind, and I just kept drawing and drawing and copying from that. You know.
And when did you start
All
making
my characters
comics?
look angry.
And when did you start making comics?
Um, like officially or like as a hobby?
As a hobby and officially.
As a hobby, I breezed through school drawing more than I should have listened. Uh, as in, I posted a few years back, like the back of my test paper, and
Mm-hmm.
I did the Transformers. I think it was um, the aerial bots versus the Stunticons. Was it? I think I drew in the back of a test paper. And then Bosco Makati, and then no office ako, and then
Whoa! Time.
yeah, Bosco.
Bosconian.
Yeah, are you a Bosconian?
I left in grade 6, but I was
Yeah,
a Bosconian. What
I'm
batch?
went through 93 high school.
93 high school. Okay, I think you're a few years older than my brother, who was a loyalty awardee. Anyway, go on. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, the Bosconian teachers did not like people drawing during
they
school
hated it, man.
hours.
They
They
hated
hated
it.
it.
But except for my art teacher got me, kept me interested in the art club, and I kept on joining, art contests. Yeah, you can say that. Mga kripas pa nun.
Mm,
Draw
creepypasta.
go to Nayon Filipino. and then draw whatever you see there. Nine Filipino is Old Park in Manila, right? So,
Oh man,
we get
crepe ass, that takes me back. So,
yeah. So,
when did you start drawing comics officially?
so I met Budgetan back in college. Budgetan, the writer of Trece, and we kept on talking about making a comic book together. And that never really materialized because he was also so busy doing Trece. And when I started working in advertising, I met Mervin in one project. And during a cigarette break, I just asked him if he read comic books, and then he said yes. And then I said, "You want to make one?" And he
It's
said,
Mervin
"Okay."
Ignacio.
Oh, Mervin Ignacio,
Yeah.
yeah, writer and creator of Skyworld, and and then I pitched him this idea of a tikbalang with a giant sword, and then yeah, and we started producing that with our own money and independently produced and sold it at Bayanihan Center Comic Con 2007, I think.
Yeah. Skyworld, the Tikbalang. So for those watching, Tikbalang is a
Yeah,
Filipino mythical horse that walks like a man.
well, it's a minotaur except it's a horse, not a bull, right? So replace that bull head with a horse, then you got a tikbalang.
You have a
For me, that's the
Tikbalang. So
best way to describe it to non-Filipino.
that's a Tikbalang. Um, my way of describing it is if you remember 3030 from Brave Star.
Yeah, that's a better way. 3030. That guy.
It's that, but not a robot.
Yes, yes, that, but not a robot and smoke cigars.
And he smokes cigars. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so I did notice that your Tikbalang Macabo has
Mhm.
eventually gets a big giant gun, just like
Yes.
3030. Is that intentional?
Yeah, I also, actually, that's true. He was really inspired by 3030. That's so true. But and for the life of me, that's never how I would um, explain it to non-Filipino people.
I don't really think Brave Star is that popular anymore, so maybe they won't understand anyway.
But it's true that 3030 was the best, or was a peg back then. This guy, because they do have the same color tones, like gray and white and red.
Uh-huh. Yeah. It's perfect. He actually does remind me of 3030. So
Yeah, cannot unsee it now.
so you brought up Skyworld. I'm gonna ask you to tell our viewers what Skyworld is all
Yes,
about.
Skyworld is a comic book that we produced way back in 2007. It's about it's so hard. How do you explain something like Game of Thrones? Well, okay. Well, Skyworld, we try to take all that is all the Filipino mythology that we know and put them all together under one roof and try to merge that with historical things that happen in the Philippines
Mm-hmm.
and make it into one. At least we tried to make it into an epic level event that would, destroy the country.
You succeeded. It's epic.
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you.
Uh,
So
and
yeah, and then back then it was published by National Bookstore.
yeah, I actually like before that you self-published it.
Yes, we did. We did. A friend of ours, Pat Go, overheard Mervin and I talking during one of our inuman sessions after work. On get We were talking about getting a loan from the bank so we could, reproduce Skyworld on better, nice hardcovers, colored
Mhm.
covers and that. And then she overheard, and then she lent us the money to print it. So we did, and then we paid her back a year later, and then we just felt lucky that more than five people kind of liked it. So National went to us and published it for us, and it was a good run.
That's one thing that I've always wanted to ask is during the first run of Skyworld, you
Mm.
published the first one. I forget the title. Skyworld
Apocrypha.
Apocrypha. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Skyworld Apocrypha. You did not ink it.
No, I did not. Uh, yeah, there's so many things happen. So when I do the first 15 pages digitally, okay, for the skeptics out there, just hear me out. So we had this seance thing happen in our old house, and the person conducting the seance gave this name of like a lamalupa, and then we used it in the Skyworld comic book.
Mm-hmm.
And then for some reason it won't see the light of day. You know, either my PC would crash, and then I moved to a Mac, and then my Mac crashed, and then yes, and or the printers could never, the files would always be super corrupted. And then just for the heck of it, Mervin and I just said, why don't we just change the name? Stop using the name and
Oh
change it.
wow.
Okay, so we changed it. Yeah, that's, and then I said I won't draw this digitally. I got kind of scared, so I cancel everything now. And then just to be safe, super minimal photoshopping, just scan the thing and then give the file to the printer. So we just scan the pencils without even inking it.
It
So
it looks great. Your pencils are super tight. You have super tight pencils, so it looks like a finished product anyway. I will say to our viewers who are very skeptical, that kind of thing happens all the time in the Philippines. So
yeah, it's either you hate it or you love it, but you just have to live with it. You
you,
know?
I could tell you stories from this last house I used to live in. It's crazy. Um, okay, so Skyworld.
You should. We should exchange ghost stories and shit like that, man. Ay, sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. um, yeah. So Skyworld. So there's a whole thing over there where you combine different characters from Philippine mythology as well
And
as Philippine history.
yeah, yeah. And we turn the legends around. That's why the tagline is "Every legend hides a lie." So all the what's pamahiins in English? Well, all the legends that you know,
Yeah.
like old wives' tales that aren't were not as you thought it should be. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
So we just turned all those legends around.
Yeah.
And
So
that was also part of the how we executed it.
so an example of that is the relationship between Jose Rizal and Andres Bonifacio.
Yes, yes, that was my favorite part.
Really?
Uh,
Why?
that was my favorite part. The drawing that fight scene with Andres Bonifacio and Jose Rizal, and it was just like a cool what if. Just
Well,
imagine
yeah.
Rizal magaling and super cool with the armies.
Well regarded as the Philippines' two greatest heroes.
Yes,
But Rizal is not known for being a physical fighter, and you turned that around. Uh,
yeah. So which was I think for me was the best part for me, and for the whole story. That was the most fun I had.
in the first interview I ever did for this show, I interviewed Budget, and I asked him why he hasn't really used the manananggal in his comic,
Hasn't he?
despite there being 7 books. He's used them as henchmen, and that's it. Um,
Impressive.
yeah, he has
Right,
not
as
used them as a big
henchman.
thing,
Yes.
right? And one of the things he said was he feels that the manananggal, that he was trying to think of the right spin for it to kind of make it new. But ironically, in Skyworld, your villain is a manananggal.
Yeah. Yeah. We only have one manananggal in Skyworld, and
And
we made her the queen of all the aswang.
and you made her epic. So normally a manananggal is just going after pregnant women.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one is going after everything. Rianka.
I think Mervin wrote her so well. I remember when we were brainstorming on what her voice could be, how her tone could be when she speaks, and then we kept on saying Sherry Hill, uh, Filipina actress Sherry
Yeah.
Hill. That's how she is. That's how we imagine her. And plus, I keep on saying this in all the interviews. She's also the culmination of all our ex-girlfriends. So, so maybe she's not necessarily a bad person, just someone that that is very controlling as a character, as a character, as a character. So yeah, and then and you may not know this, she was also inspired by Ursula from uh, Little Mermaid from
Ah,
Disney.
with all the
Tentacle.
tentacles.
Yeah.
I can see that. A much thinner version of Ursula.
Yes, yes. Plus, she's nude all the time.
plus
She
she's
never wears
plus she's
clothes.
nude all the time, everyone, in case you needed a reason to buy the book.
No, I'm not saying that, but I mean, I think the character is so well written by Mervyn that she didn't really need anything elaborate in terms of art direction
Yeah.
visually.
Yeah, I'm just kidding because if she's a monster with half a body, so if guys, if you find that if that's your thing, then go ahead. But I mean, I'd like a full body on people. So okay, so Skyworld. Um, will we be hearing news about Skyworld soon?
Um, we are preparing things, so we'll make proper announcements once we can.
Okay,
So
I will get back to you when that
yeah.
happens. Okay, and another thing that you did was Salamanca. Can you tell
Yes,
us what Salamanca's about?
now published by Sun Books. It's my first solo book, Salamangka, and it's a collection of flash stories
Mm-hmm.
um, of different Filipino mythology characters and creatures, and some creatures that I just made up on my own. So I created this world called Salamanca, and yeah, it's out now.
Short
So
stories.
also online, yes.
What is it about Filipino mythology that draws you to it so much?
I know, I love it. I'm a myth geek. I love anything mythology based, Greek, Viking, knights, and then I will always find myself drawn to Filipino mythology because of how rich I think it is, and there's just so many things you can use
Yeah.
in terms of storytelling, and or little tidbits and flavors and ingredients for a good story.
And there's so many sources of Filipino mythology. Like when you say Filipino mythology, there's like the mythology of Ilocos, the mythology of
Yeah, yeah. Plus, it
yeah,
depends where you are or where you get it from, right? And it depends what part of the country.
exactly. So it's not the same all throughout the country.
Exactly.
Uh, is that a challenge trying to reconcile all of those different myths?
Um, I would say the challenge would be in the research as
Mm-hmm.
well. Um, and then what I did with Salamanca was I borrowed from those stories and kind of made it my own. So if you're familiar with Elseworlds, um, or Marvel What If,
Mm-hmm.
so I play around with already known uh, myth tropes, Filipino myth tropes. You know what I mean, like that the Ibalon warrior or the Minokawa,
Mm-hmm.
and then just make a story about that. And the original intent was to sort of modernize these old Filipino stories and characters to get a younger generation, well, not just a younger generation, but to get at least everyone more interested in the lore.
Mhm.
And I hope it does.
Do you think internationally Filipino myth will ever catch on the same way the Greek myths have, and the Nordic myths, obviously, with since Thor is very popular these days?
I I hope so. That would be a nice thing.
Hmm.
Uh, but I mean, we're slowly getting there. Like in one of the Grimm TV shows, do you know that series
Yeah,
Grimm? They featured an aswang. They called it an aswang. So
it's cool.
I love that. Like, oh, okay, people are talking about aswang. And I remember having this conversation with Neil Gaiman way back in the early days of Skyworld. He did say that, well, it's not really a problem, but it's really the pronunciation of the characters, like Tikbalang, Manananggal. I mean, if for a global audience,
I
I mean,
know.
how do you how do you translate that otherwise? But
First of all, I think it's really funny the way you just very casually say, "Oh, I was having a conversation with Neil Gaiman."
oh, name dropping. I just did do a name drop. I met him in one of the ad congresses before, um, and I, I I brought along Skyworld, and then Budget already knew him then, and they were talking. So sumingit lang ako, and then I showed him Skyworld, and then we started talking about Filipino mythology, and then he did say, "If you guys don't write stories, some more stories about this, I will." He jokingly said that, and uh, and then that just gets to show that in that he is also already aware of the stories that we have in our culture, and that Mr. Gaiman already thinks that there's already so much color there.
Yeah, I think one of the funniest things about Amanananggal is when I talk to my non-Filipino friends about it. They know vampires, but
Yeah,
then when you show them Amanananggal, they're like, "Is it really necessary to cut them in
I know,
half?"
right? Like overkill. How do you explain naman nananggal to your friends, your non-Filipino friends?
I say it's a vampire that goes after babies and or like pregnant women that flies around without its legs. It's really weird.
So
It's
weird to explain, right? Especially the half and half thing.
and then like if you find the lower half and you pour salt in it, it'll
Yep, and
die,
then you win.
and then you win, but you have to find the lower half.
Yeah, it's just like another side quest on its own. Yeah.
That's really weird. So question: Skyworld was written in English,
Yes.
um, and Mr. Tino was written primarily in Tagalog first,
Yes. Yes, it was,
uh,
and now it translated in English under epigram.
because it's published in Singapore.
Yes. Yes.
Uh, is there a preference for which language? Do you have a preference for which language we use for these stories?
I personally like the Tagalog one, and I haven't read the. Oh no, I've read the English one, but on a laptop lang. But I would like to reread it again, like personally, like hold it in my hand, read it like a proper comic book.
Mm-hmm.
It for me, I miss the Tagalog flavor, because we never knew that Epigram was going to pick us up then. So we thought that was it, and it was really, I think Russell really wrote it that way. So uh, you kind of lose some of the Filipino nuances.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, for a global audience, Carl Joe Javier did a very good job in translating it to English, I must say.
So with that having been said, like if you could have a Tagalog version of Skyworld, would you do it?
I don't think Mervin is comfortable writing in Tagalog.
I mean, if you could find a translator, I mean,
If we do, then that
yeah.
would be cool, though. That would be cool.
It's weird, right? Because like I mean, I speak both English and Tagalog, but I hate translating. It's not as easy as you think it is.
I guess you lose some of the, some intents get lost in translation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to be careful how you would translate a way of a phrase is said.
Even something as simple as a pangilan. How do you,
Exactly,
how do you translate that?
exactly. And ano ba yan,
Yeah.
right? Like, what is that? I mean,
Ano ano ba yan will literally translate to what is that, but it's
exactly.
used to mean it's just an expression.
Uh, uh, uh,
Yeah. And
right,
pangilan is just you're asking what
right.
what
Three to four.
number something is. Yeah, are you first, fourth, fifth,
Exactly.
sixth?
Something like that.
But it's just we get that in one word. I have a friend who actually lives in the States, and he decides to use he's a Filipino friend in the States, and every time it comes to his mind, he just says the what,
What?
the what.
Ito, Dui. The going up or going down. Elevator scene. Baba baba.
Ba 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 ba
Baba.
ba ba ba.
You just change the tone. Baba baba. Baba ba. That's already a conversation. And you just say two letters.
Two letters,
Baba
one
baba.
syllable,
Baba ba.
7 times. That's it.
Right? You just say ba. And then the whole conversation is made.
All right, exactly. Ba 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 ba. And then that's like that means going down, going down.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So what was I talking about?
I don't know. I forgot. What are you talking about?
Okay. Oh no. I remember.
Salamangka.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Last few questions. Which artists inspire you today, and what Filipino artists do you look up
So
to?
many. Of course, and Bonifacio.
Mm-hmm.
He's the
Legend.
one that really got me into like serious. I want to learn sequential art. That's Will's.
Wait,
Um,
is that because Wills is a Filipino artist? Like you realized you could do this too?
no, I didn't know he
Or
was Filipino when I had Uncanny X-Men. Kasi if you
really?
read, yeah, because if you read, because we didn't have internet in the 90s, right?
Yeah, no, we didn't. No.
We did.
Yeah.
So I, all my news I got from Wizard magazine, which I had to go to book sale and buy, and that would be a 3 or 4 month late old magazine. So I
Yeah.
get my news really late. So the Gus Portasio, I didn't know he was Filipino, and then I had Uncanny X-Men, and then I said the art is amazing, and then when I found out he was Filipino, I blew my mind. So
Very cool.
that was like I want to learn sequential art. Like I already differentiated it. I knew what that was specifically sequential art that I wanted to do.
What makes Will stand out in terms of sequential art compared to the other image founders?
I just personally like his aesthetic
Okay.
and the faces and the muscles and his cross hatching. I think his cross hatching is so amazing, which I cannot do. And then
No, your style is very clean.
Oh, thank you though.
Yeah.
I can never learn. Like I could never learn cross hatching. I tried. I even took like a workshop under Wills and Jerry Rangilan and Gilbert Monsanto. They used to hold these workshops in Mega Mall, and then I had to do that, and I couldn't do the cross hatch class, so I flunked that.
Wow. It's okay. You make up for it in other ways. Anyone else?
Of course, Lionel. I love Lionel's art and like the facial expressions, the lines, the line work, especially when he does his markers. I love that. Um, the new and I would say new and improved and matured Travis Charest. Is it Charest? Charest?
I
How do
think
you
it's Charest. Charest.
Charest?
Yeah.
Travis Charest. I love his. Is it Space Girl, right? And his work on Meta Barons.
Man, that's a guy that I just wish would draw more comics.
I know, right? He should. Uh,
He,
Joe Madureira, Battle Chasers.
okay,
Love
I
that.
didn't expect that one because
Yeah.
you're naming these hyper detailed, realistic artists, and now you're naming a
Joe Madureira.
cartoony, anime inspired,
I
energetic
love his
artist.
silhouettes on monsters. Joe Madureira does the best monsters ever
Yeah,
for me.
he's really
And
good.
yes, he is. He is.
But I do like how you remembered that when I said I wish that guy would draw more comics.
Because he's not doing anything. He's
Exactly.
doing games. Like he's really. What's that game he's doing right now?
Uh,
One with the angel and death and
I don't know, but we'll look it up.
Slayer or whatever. Anyway, yeah, he's. I think he's in love with game design right now.
Yeah, I think he was always a video game guy first. So
Oh, wait, are we talking about Joe Madureira or Travis?
Joe Madureira.
Joe Madureira. Also
Yeah,
Travis. Yes. I miss
yeah.
him. I miss seeing his work. And you'd see his gradual change in art style, right? If you read the Wildcats series, right?
Yeah.
Slowly finding his own style, and you're like, no, this guy's getting good. Used to be a Jim Lee clone, right?
And,
And then
and
now,
now he's
oh,
Travis Charest. So
exactly, exactly.
it was very excellent.
And I would say Bill Watterson,
Oh, nice.
Calvin and Hobbes.
Calvin and Hobbes right there. Yeah,
Yes,
right
I
there.
love Calvin and Hobbes
It's only the greatest comic strip of all time.
all time in history.
No, it's funny because I've had a couple of comic strip artists on the show, and they're both like, "Oh yeah, I was really inspired by Calvin and Hobbes." Like and then they say that if you're doing comic strips now, it's impossible not to be inspired by Calvin and Hobbes because even if you never read Calvin and Hobbes, someone that you're inspired by was
Yeah,
inspired by Calvin and Hobbes.
exactly.
So
In fact, Salamanca's format was inspired by Calvin and Hobbes.
really,
It's flash fiction. Like,
yeah,
like Calvin and Hobbes is just one story for
uh
two
huh.
or three pages, and that's what I did for Salamanca,
That's
and
interesting.
even for Salamanca 2, and hopefully 3.
Okay, next question.
Yes.
Which characters that are not your own would you like to someday make a comic of?
Of course, I'd say Batman, but that's like, uh, yun yung go-to eh. I mean,
That's
that's like,
funny because budget says the same thing. So maybe when you two finally work together, it'll be on a Batman.
maybe Batman. I'd say Batman and a Daredevil, and maybe something weird. Like, give me something weird, like, I don't know, Sandman.
It was like something weird, like what, Swamp Thing? You want Swamp Thing?
No, not something like weirder. Like, I don't know how how Dave McKean would interpret these Neil Gaiman stories, right? And
Hmm.
then it's it's executed differently by Frank quietly. If it's
Yeah.
back. So I mean, but that would be a nice challenge. How would you illustrate the imagination of Neil Gaiman?
Uh, and um, I usually end these things with a lightning round. So I'm gonna
Okay.
ask you. I'm gonna name three people, and you're gonna tell me what it's like to work with them. Okay. So,
Uh, okay.
like, really quickly. So, what's it like working with Mervin Ignacio?
And it's like working with Michael Bay. Like, expect a lot of explosions and then just expect a lot of destruction. It's fast paced and hectic.
Yeah. So yeah, in Skyworld, everyone.
Nice energy.
So in Skyworld, everyone, Ian basically destroys the Philippines.
That means Mervin's idea. Yeah, we actually don't solve it, right? We just oh, record.
Um,
Spoilers. Okay.
no. I mean, like I mean, you destroyed in like the second issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and then the other one, number 2, Russell Molina. So like working with him.
Man, it's like, how should I say this? It's like working with a poet. You should read how Russell Molina writes in pure, deep Tagalog, the whole saga, and then I have to put that into pictures, and it's almost intimidating at first because if you read the whole thing, how Russell wrote it, it already feels like he's written because it's so poetic the way he writes in Tagalog.
Mm-hmm.
And back then, I even asked, "Is this a caption?" No, I'm just describing you what's gonna happen in the page. For example, sumasayaw. I keep on remembering this. Sorry for the non
It's okay.
Tagalog. Or they were like sumasayaw sa ilalim ng buwan habang parang isang orchestra ang mga busina ng mga jeepney. And in my head, he could have just told me that he's standing in traffic, like as writer to artist, right? No, but that's how he would write it.
So it's like he's
already metaphorical, and he didn't write it as if he was writing for a comic book. He wrote it as a book, and then he gave me those pages, and then he said, "Ian, turn this into a comic book."
Wow, that's insane.
Yeah, it's fun. It's super fun.
Do they both work in full script?
Mervin and Budget are full on comic book style guys. Panel 1, panel 2, panel 3. Which is totally fine, and I'm super used to that. But with Russell, it was just copy, and then he said, "Okay, you art direct the visuals."
So more freedom. Which method do you prefer?
Either, but I would say the if working with Russell was exciting because of the freedom, and it's challenging because it has to meet up with the imaginations of the writer as well.
It's freeing because of the freedom, but it's also challenging because of the freedom.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Freedom isn't entirely free.
And the third one is, what's it like writing for yourself?
Weird. You tend to get harder on yourself because it's my first time, so I over analyze stuff, and then I'm working with a very good editor, Leo Mangubat from Summit,
mm-hmm.
and I'm learning a lot. So I would say it's challenging and fun. Plus, and the fact that I have to be harder on myself because I have a lot of copywriter friends, and I don't want them,
It's because you work it.
Yeah. So, okay. Write it, don't overwrite it, stuff like that. But it's fun. It's a fun process.
Because a bunch of people who would, because in your line of work, in your day job, a bunch of people who would read it and immediately try to edit it for themselves, right?
Yeah, well.
So I get that. All right. Anything else you want to plug, Ian?
I know. Salamangka 1 is available on Shopee and Lazada online. Mm-hmm. Also as an ebook, so you get an ebook or the physical book by delivery. And Salamangka 2 is coming out soon. Hopefully this month or the next. So
very cool. All right, everybody. That was Ian Santa Maria. And I will link your social media under this video.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Dewey. Thanks for having me, man. Stay
Thank
safe.
you, Ian.